The millionaire had learned long ago how to move through the world without really seeing it, how to glide from one meeting to another, from one luxury car to the next, wrapped in a shield of money, power, and habit. And that afternoon was no different until the scream shattered the rhythm of his life like glass breaking in a cathedral, because the voice didn't sound polite or desperate in the way he was used to ignoring. It sounded urgent, raw, terrified, the kind of sound that claws at the spine. And when he turned, irritated and ready to dismiss yet another interruption, he saw her, a small homeless black girl, no more than 10, hair wild and tangled, clothes stained with the dust of the streets, bare feet slapping the pavement as she ran toward him with one arm pointing wildly, her eyes wide like she was staring at the edge of a nightmare. And she shouted again, "Look under the car!" so loudly that people nearby froze. And for a moment the millionaire felt something unfamiliar tighten in his chest. Not fear exactly, but the uncomfortable sense that the carefully controlled world he lived in had just cracked open. His first instinct was annoyance. He was late, his driver was waiting. The door of his sleek, black car was already open. But the girl's face wouldn't let him turn away, because there was no begging in it, no rehearsed sadness, only urgency mixed with terror. And against his will he followed her, pointing finger and bent slightly to peer beneath the car, expecting nothing more than trash or shadow, until his breath caught because there, trapped near the rear tire, was a small, trembling dog whimpering softly, its thin body pressed against the asphalt, one paw twisted at an unnatural angle, eyes glossy with pain and fear. And suddenly the girl dropped to her knees without caring who was watching, crawling halfway under the car and whispering to the animal like it was her own child, telling it everything would be okay, even though her voice shook. And the millionaire straightened slowly, stunned because something about the scene unsettled him far more than a business loss ever had. The way the girl protected that dog with her body, the way she hadn't asked for money or food, but only for him to notice something that mattered. And people began to gather, phones coming out, whispers spreading, but the girl ignored them all, focused only on the creature under the car, while the millionaire felt memories stir that he had buried decades ago, memories of being a scared boy himself once, powerless and unseen before money taught him how to forget. And as the driver asked nervously whether they should call animal control, the girl snapped back fiercely that they would hurt the dog or leave it to die, and she looked straight at the millionaire and said words that struck harder than any insult. "You got everything, sir. I got nothing. But he got less than me. Please don't leave him." And in that moment, the millionaire realized the freezing sensation in his body wasn't shock, it was shame, because all his success suddenly felt small, compared to the courage of a homeless child kneeling on hot pavement for a wounded dog. And as he knelt down himself, ruining his expensive suit without caring, something irreversible shifted inside him, something that would follow him long after this day ended. And if this story is already pulling at your heart, remember, moments like this are why stories matter. So don't forget to subscribe and stay with us, because what happens next will change everything. The millionaire stayed there longer than anyone expected, long enough for time to stretch and warp, long enough for the city noise to fade into something distant and unreal. And as he carefully helped the girl free the injured dog and wrapped it in his jacket, he noticed how gently she moved, like pain was something she understood too well. And when he asked her name, she hesitated before answering, as if names were dangerous things to give away, but finally whispered it, and told him she lived wherever the night allowed, sometimes behind stores, sometimes under bridges, always listening for footsteps. And as they waited for a private vet, he insisted on calling, not animal control. The girl told him how she'd lost her mother, how hunger taught her to watch the ground instead of the sky, how the dog had followed her for weeks, sharing scraps, warmth, and loneliness. And the millionaire listened in silence, because every sentence stripped away another layer of the man he pretended to be. And when the vet arrived and confirmed the dog would live, the girl finally smiled, a small, fragile smile that somehow hurt more than tears. And when she thanked him, he realized no one had thanked him sincerely in years. Not like this, not without expectation. And in that moment, he made a decision that terrified him more than any financial risk. He invited her into his world, not with charity, but with commitment, arranging shelter, education, care, and staying involved instead of writing a check and walking away. And weeks later, As the girl sat in a clean room for the first time, the dog sleeping safely at her feet, the millionaire stood at the doorway realizing that wealth had never been about what he owned but about what he chose to protect. And the world didn't change overnight. Injustice didn't vanish, but one life was transformed. Then another. Because compassion spreads quietly, powerfully like light through cracks. And the millionaire would later say that the loudest moment of his life wasn't a business victory or applause at a gala, but a homeless girl screaming for him to look under a car. And if this story moved you, if it reminded you that humanity can still surprise us, then make sure you subscribe to the channel right now, because these are the stories that restore faith. One moment at a time. Months passed, but the moment under the car never loosened its grip on either of them. Because some events don't fade into memory. They become roots, and for the millionaire, those roots began to change the direction of his life in ways he never planned or announced. He didn't turn it into a headline or a charity press release. He simply kept showing up quietly at first, attending meetings about the girl's education, listening to doctors explain the dog's recovery, sitting across from social workers who were surprised to see a man of his status asking questions, instead of giving orders, and the girl watched him carefully the way street children do, always waiting for the moment when kindness expires. Because in her world, promises had a short shelf life. Yet weeks turned into months and he was still there, still awkwardly learning how to speak without commanding, still realizing that money could solve logistics but not trust. And one evening, as they walked through a park, the dog now healthy, running in circles with joy, the girl finally asked him why he had stayed. Not in a grateful way, but in a guarded one. And the question hit him harder than she knew, because it forced him to confront a truth he had avoided for decades. That all his success had been built on running away from vulnerability, from the frightened boy he once was, from the people he couldn't save back then. And he told her the truth in simple words, that when she yelled for him to look under the car, she wasn't just saving a dog, she was waking him up, reminding him that ignoring suffering doesn't make you strong, it just makes you smaller. And the girl listened silently, nodding like someone much older than her years. And for the first time she spoke about dreams, not survival plans, but dreams about becoming a veterinarian someday, about helping animals no one else wanted, about having a place where nobody had to beg to be seen. And the millionaire realized that this was the real miracle, not that he had changed her life, but that she still believed in a future after everything she had endured. And inspired by her resilience, he began funding shelters differently, insisting on dignity, long-term care, education, not just temporary relief. And slowly stories spread, not about him but about the results, about people who had been invisible now standing on their own feet, about children reunited with hope, about lives redirected because someone finally looked instead of walking past. And one day at a small school ceremony, the girl stood confidently on a stage, no longer homeless, no longer afraid, the dog sitting proudly beside her. And when she spoke into the microphone, she didn't thank the millionaire by name. She simply said, "All it takes is one person to stop and look." And the room fell silent, because everyone knew she was right. And the millionaire, standing in the back, felt tears blur his vision, understanding at last that the loudest legacies aren't built with skyscrapers or wealth, but with moments of courage and compassion that ripple outward, unseen but unstoppable. And if